What even are celebrities in 2026? My theory is that over the next coming decades, we're going to see the concept of having celebrities that everybody knows and are universally recognized. Well, that concept will essentially go extinct. And it'll happen because there'll be so many micro celebrities and e-celebrities and sports celebrities in different niches that there won't be any universally recognized faces. You can already see aspects of this phenomenon happening in society. Like if I went around to different people, and I wouldn't even need to pick variations in age brackets, I'd pretty much just pick people with a different look, right? And if I asked them to list who are the biggest celebrities right now, I'd get completely different answers. Like if I asked a boomer or a Gen Xer, they'd probably tell me the biggest celebrities were a list of movie stars. They'd probably say it's Brad Pitt and Robert De Niro, people like that. But if you were to ask somebody who's in a certain algorithm chronically online, they'd probably tell you that Mr. Beast is the biggest celebrity in the world right now. Of course, how could he not be? He has the best metrics on YouTube. But then you ask somebody who's the same age as them, and Mr. Beast, sure, maybe they've heard of him, but they wouldn't call him a celebrity, and maybe they don't even know what he looks like until you show them a picture of him, and then they're like, oh yeah, I know who that is. You ask a Swiftie, you already know what their answer is going to be. Talk to somebody who's interested in politics, their answer is going to be completely different now, isn't it? You can also tell a lot about somebody and what's on their news feed. You could pretty much predict it accurately to a T based on how they answer the question of who are the top 10 biggest celebrities right now. Now, I'm sure the system, and by that I mean the mainstream media, will always have a way and a method of manufacturing mainstream celebrities that will be universally recognizable to a certain extent. I believe in a few decades from now, politicians will probably be the only names that are recognizable across most generations. And that's only because you get the mainstream actors and stuff like that always talking about politicians, and there's a certain method that's always used to push these people into everybody's newsfeed. Due in part mainly because they exist in a fundamental crossroad where entertainment gets translated into real-world concrete activity and social change. So the ecosystem will allow for these super famous politicians because the micro celebrities will be rage baiting and clickbaiting their audiences into listening to them talk about them. But the age of the movie star is largely going away. It's pretty much already dead in the water where it currently stands. We have these legacy celebrities like Leonardo DiCaprio who are getting older, but the new ones coming up, like the Tom Hollands, the Timothy Chalamet's, the Zendayas of the world, they just don't hit the same as the celebrity movie stars we used to have for previous generations. And those three seem to be the most shoehorned into every movie possible. It's like Hollywood is attempting to manufacture A-listers, and it's really not working the way they intended. Like, granted, if you asked people who are movie fans, they'd probably know who these people are. But if you went around and you asked just the average person who doesn't really watch movies or is more into Netflix, well, they might confuse Zendaya with an influencer. And that's the point that I'm making here, is that movie stars are more like influencers these days. Shit, Jake Paul is probably just as recognizable, if not more recognizable, than most of the quote-unquote A-list celebrities who are quote-unquote movie stars these days. You see, in the world of the attention economy, they're all competing for the exact same resource, which is time. Modern science says the average human can recognize up to 10,000 faces, and it's capped out at that. They say this is probably because we were originally designed to live in a small village or a city of like 10,000 people that we would need to recognize, and our inner circle is even smaller. Like 10,000 is a huge stretch. Initially, they say that it was supposed to be like 100 to 250 people. That would be like your immediate family and then the people in town. So let's just say, for the sake of example, we all got room in our brain for 500 celebrities tops. And then take into consideration how many faces you see when you're on a 3-hour scrolling session through social media. A person who uses TikTok all the time is going to be exposed to thousands of faces in a given scrolling session potentially, and they're probably going to be aware of hundreds of micro celebrities, people who randomly go on viral all the time. Like, take World of T-shirts for example. For a lot of people, he was actually a pretty big celebrity. celebrity. Even though he was a lolcow, there were people who were tracking what he was doing, how much alcohol he was consuming. In his prime, he was an e-celeb. And you wouldn't even need to go far to find somebody who had no idea who he was. You could even talk to people who are also chronically online. You wouldn't even need to ask a normie, but only certain people would be aware of who he was. But within those circles of people who were aware, well, they would be inundated with a news feed that was full of all the different Joshua Block updates. See, once you start to throw people who watch live streams into the mix, you complicate things very significantly, because here you have a crowd of people who spend hours and hours with these micro celebs. It's happened to me too, where I've been a big fan of a live streamer and I'm in a community of thousands of people who are all aware of this person and we all think of them as a celebrity, but then you go directly outside of that bubble and people have no idea who they are. So what's been happening year after year is everybody's attention is spread out among all these different influencers who are competing for their attention, and what's happening is there's no more Michael Jackson of the world. There's no more Elvis Presley that we can all point to and say, yes, that's the most famous person around right now. Because back then, not even everybody had a TV. They had a radio, and maybe every once in a while they go to the movies. There's another thing. The magazine industry used to be so big a couple decades ago, and people would see on the covers of magazines these faces of celebrities that were familiar to everyone. These days, people hardly go out in general. I believe a grocery store checkout line would be the main place most people would see their magazine covers. Now they just get Uber Eats and they have no idea who's on the cover of the magazines, if there even are magazines. The day and age of that particular form of celebrity worship, where there's people who are obsessed with whoever's depicted on these magazine covers, well, that's largely going the way of the dinosaur. I would imagine that the people who had the particular disposition to be obsessed with magazine cover celebrities, well, those people are probably just obsessed with their own follower account on whichever social media of their choice. Maybe the end of the universally recognized celebrity is a good thing. I mean, with all the things coming out in the news right now, we're starting to learn that these hyper-famous people were actually pretty slimy behind the scenes. It's like we have this impression of them that they're good people because they're good actors, and then we find out that they're incredibly horrible people in their private life. That's the other thing too. People with a public persona are radioactive, and they're always open to be canceled, so you never know what's going to happen. Somebody could be on the top of the world, a huge celebrity one day, and then they're in jail the next. Or even they just get blacklisted from Hollywood and they're not getting roles anymore. I mean, look at what happened to Kevin Spacey. A lot of people seem to think that the end of the era of celebrity worship is a good thing, but I think that energy will just be directed elsewhere. I think a more accurate term than using any variation of the word celebrity is more just people are developing parasocial relationships with people they see online. And then at the same time, we do have the legacy celebrities who are still sticking around from the 90s and earlier, who are more or less now just becoming political mouthpieces. I wish actors would just stay in their lane, be in movies, and keep their opinion about politics to themselves. I'm talking about you, Robert De Niro. I mean, the guy is a great actor, but he seems to be doing everything in his power to make us dislike him whenever he gets on the mic and starts talking about politics. Leonardo DiCaprio is also guilty of this same exact thing. And whether or not you agree with what they're saying is something completely different altogether. The point is that these are super rich people who live lives that are completely removed from any understanding that the average person might possess. Like how Taylor Swift is always getting dragged through the mud because she's flying everywhere in her private jet, and then she's going to these conferences where she's preaching to us about global warming or something. It's like, I really don't give a shit about what these super rich celebrities have to say about politics. And it's become glaringly obvious in the past few years that mainstream celebrities are just mouthpieces for the machine, put there to insert ideas into the general population. And all their facade, being in movies and doing music and stuff like that, is more like what they're getting in the back end as opposed to the type of slop that they're trying to push in the front end. 90% of the entertainment industry, if you want to call it that, it's just a complete slop fest, especially the mainstream media. I mean, that's why people are turning to alternative media like social media. but that's becoming a laughable thing to say because the machine has figured out a way to insert slop into social media on a grander scale than we could ever imagine. We're rapidly approaching the age of the AI influencer. If it's not already here, it's definitely in its early stages. I wonder if we're going to see the rise of the AI movie star. Like 100 years from now, are we still going to be watching Tom Cruise's AI clone generated in Mission Impossible 100? Hollywood does own the rights to the likeness of many of these celebrities, so it wouldn't be far-fetched to imagine that they would just use them and regurgitate them again into infinity. I mean, once they find a way to make money off of it, it's completely over. All they have to do is release one movie that makes $1 billion that features an entirely AI-generated cast, and we're going to be stuck with it as an audience. And I could easily see it as a logical next move for them. I mean, they're running into a lot of trouble establishing household names, especially when it comes to big movie stars that can be inserted into these blockbusters and put asses in seats. That's why we're seeing Jack Black getting regurgitated over and over in different franchises. Another thing I wanted to talk about was the music industry. I mean, who are the new up-and-coming musicians right now? Like 10 years ago, you could give me a list of all the new up-and-coming rappers, and I would say, yes, those are the new ones. And I'm sure there's people who could fill a list with 100 different potential up-and-coming musicians right now, but I don't think that list would be as universally recognizable as it was 10 years ago. I think that's a phenomenon that can largely be attributed to the platforms and TikTok sort of layout of social media. Call it the TikTokification of social media. Every platform, Instagram, YouTube, all has that same layout where you're able to upload a short and then choose a sound. This is something that's a relatively new feature. At least it's come front and center in the past decade. And what it's done is that it's turned the musician into just a sound manufacturer. And many of the sounds that go viral on social media are used ironically. They're not made by people who are legitimately looking up the band, following them on social media, and into their message. People pick the sound and upload it with their short because they want to optimize their own metrics. They're rarely doing it to support an artist. So the music industry is cannibalizing itself, and as a result, we're not seeing new mainstream celebrities rise up as musicians. They're more like streamers these days, I guess. I'm not a big follower of celebrities. Personally, I'm not interested in them. A lot of the content I watch is like commentary videos on YouTube and more educational stuff. And as soon as an influencer I follow starts to get a big ego and they treat their fan base like they're somehow beneath them, that's usually when I tune out in general. But something that's even more off-putting by celebrities is when they're fake humble. So I guess there's a middle ground that we all have to reach in our personas day to day, even if you're a celebrity or a normal person. My prediction is that it will largely come down to just money. I think that it'll be like who's rich and who's poor, more or less about who's famous and who's not. I mean, there'll always be the odd offhand lolcow anomaly that pops up like Joshua Block, but for the most part, I think that what's going to happen is that especially while it becomes more difficult to differentiate real and fake content because of AI, it'll be like people flexing on social media with their cars and money. Well, they'll probably be getting called out more and more by their audience, and it'll probably seem more and more desperate because people can smell fakeness a mile away, especially when it comes to social media because the internet is fake and we're saturated by it, so we know it when we see it. Anyways, that's all I have to say for now. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. If you made it this far, list some of the up-and-coming celebrities I might have not heard about, and yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. This is Avery Yapps signing out.